Okay guys, depending on which class we had, some of us were able to get a little bit further along on this these diagrams, and some of us did not. So I'm just going to go ahead and go from the beginning here. So we're starting with this equation, and remember we said that this part is the rule. It's telling you what to do with all the inputs so that you can figure out what the outputs are. And then it says in the directions, evaluate this relation here over the domain -6, -3, 0, 3, 6, 9. Okay, so that means domain is all the x values, all right? Those of you that were absent, you might want to make sure you fill this in, but remember, domain is the set of all x values, and they're saying use these as your x values. Notice they use set notation, and each one of these is the x value that is being asked for you to use. So basically all of these, they're all x values, which means they are also all inputs. Okay, so where are the outputs? We're going to have to figure it out by taking each one of these inputs, putting the rule, applying the rule to them, and then finding the output. Now I will say one thing here, be careful when you're using your calculator with a fraction like this. Remember, fractions can be divided, so 2 divided by 3 will give you a decimal, and it'll actually be a repeating decimal, but let your calculator remember that and then just go with the rest of the work, okay? So I'll show you. So for example here, we're going to create a table. Now we already know what all our x values are. They're all these inputs here. So I'm going to pull from here -6, then -3, then 0, 3, 6, 9. Now at any point here, I would really encourage you to pause the video so that you can do this work on your own, and then you can always start the video to see if you did it right. Now this next part, I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper because there's no room for me to show my work, so that I can show you how to find the output. So if the rule is f of x equals 2/3 x minus 2, that's basically saying that if you have a box, okay, and let's say you have your input and your input's going to be your -6. It's going to go in, okay, and the rule that's being applied to it is this 2/3, and then times x, but instead of x, you're going to times -6, and then minus 2, okay? So you got to do that, and then that'll give you what your output is. So then this is a practice in your calculator. So if you do 2 divided by 3, it'll give you 0.6 repeating. Then you multiply by 6 negative. And when you do that, you should get -4, right? Then you take -4 and then you minus 2, not times -2. Like you literally read it as -2, so you're subtracting 2. So 2/3 times -6 is -4, minus 2 is -6. Interesting that the input was -6 and the output also came out to be -6. There's no major coincidence here, it just happened to turn out that way this time. So we're going to put our output here. Okay, so now how do we, what's our output when our input is a -3? So what happens if we put in f of -3? So that will be equal to 2/3 times -3 minus 2. If you want to think about it as a machine, okay, you have -3 going in, and that 2/3 is going to multiply by the -3, subtract 2 to get the output. So once again, use your calculator. So 2/3 times -3, remember multiplying comes before subtracting because PEMDAS, okay, says do this first before you do that. Okay, so 2/3 times a -3 ends up being, well, if you put 2 divided by 3 in your calculator, it's 0.6 repeating. You take that and multiply by -3, that's a -2. Then minus another 2, and -2 minus 2 should end up being -4. If you're not getting the answers that I'm saying, then you might want to check how you're using your calculator. Okay, why don't you try the next one on your own, pause the video. I'm going to keep going, but obviously if you pause the video, then you can restart it and catch up with me. So f of 0 is my next input. That means I'm going to take that 0 and I'm going to put it here, and then subtract 2. Multiply first. I'm not going to draw the function machine this time. 2/3 times 0 is 0, and then you subtract 2 equals -2. So the output is -2. Okay, so now let's try f of 3. So that's our input. Okay, these are always our inputs. Then we apply the rule to it, and then this will be our output. Okay? So f of 3 is going to be 2/3 times 3 and then minus 2. Multiply these. Again, pause, do this on your own, then check. 2/3 times 3 is 2. Minus 2 is 0. So 0. Now let's see what happens when you input a 6. So that 6 goes here. Alright? So when we multiply these, that becomes 4. Again, you can check in your calculator, do 2 divided by 3 first, then multiply by 6, and that's going to be 4. Minus 2 is a positive 2. And then, last but not least, if we put in 9, okay, it becomes 2/3 times 9 minus 2. When you multiply these together, that becomes 6. Again, you do 2 divided by 3, 0.6 repeating, times 9, ends up being 6. Minus 2 is a positive 4. Alright? So now we have all of our outputs. Now we can actually create ordered pairs out of them because we have our x values and our y values. Remember, x comes before y. Here you have the -6 and then another -6. Here you have -3, -4. Again, I would pause the video, you do it on your own, and then check to see that you got it right. Don't forget parentheses, don't forget your comma. Okay, now let's use function notation to show the same relation. So function notation makes use of the f of x, okay? You got to use that f. So instead of f of x, we know what our input is, so we'll say f of x, which is -6, or this x, same thing, parentheses, equals -6. So there's my input, there's my output. Same here, -3 is my input, it creates the output, -4. Okay, so again, I would advise you to pause here and do the rest and then check. There we go. Mapping. Okay, all the x values go here, all the y values go here. Let's look at the x values. Okay, none of them repeat, and they're all in increasing order. So -6, -3, 0, 3, 6, 9. If I look at the y values, they're also already in increasing order. So not that you have to put them in increasing order, but that just means that these, basically the arrows are going to go straight across, because -6 gets paired with -6, -3 with -4. Make sure you are pairing the correct numbers with one another. 3 goes with 0, 6 with 2, and 9 with 4. Now let's plot these. Okay, remember this is your y-axis, and this is your x-axis, and this is 0, 0. This one has a numbering on them. If you look closely, they're numbered every other one. So there's 2 here, that means this is 1, this is 3, this is 5. And here this is -1, then -2, then -3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I know I did this part right. I'm just going to go ahead and look here. So I'm going all the way over here. All of these are the same relation, so it doesn't matter which one you look at as long as you did them all correctly. So x is -6, which means on the x-axis I go left 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then down 6. And I see it right here. So make sure my eyes are not playing tricks on me. Okay, I did that one. I should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ordered pairs. So -3, -4. So I have to go -3 on the x, 3 to the left, and then -4 means go down for the y. Okay, now this one says don't go left or right for the x, just stays, but then it does go down 2 because it's, the y is -2, and the y goes up and down. Okay, let's go to 3, 0. So x is 3, +3, which means on the x-axis I go 1, 2, 3 to the right, and y is 0, meaning I don't go up or down, I just stay put. There we go. Okay, and then 6, 2, 6 is x, so I go 6 positive to the right because x can only go left or right, and then you go up 2. And then 9, 4, 9, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're done.